Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, BethChatsBooks. Now it's Sunday morning, so good morning everybody. I've decided that it is appropriate and around the right kind of time frame to start talking about the favourite books of last year. I know so many people have already uploaded those kind of videos, and it's the first kind of year where I've done consistently reading throughout the year, and I have a log because of Goodreads of everything I've read. So I kind of gone back through that this morning and picked out a few things that I kind of want to mention. Now, what I want to explicitly say through this video is that I hate judging books against each other. Sometimes a 3-star can stick with me. I've rated it as a 3-star on Goodreads and vice versa with 4 stars. And then sometimes I have a 5-star and I look back and think, well, it wasn't that memorable. I obviously loved it at the time of reading, but it's not really one of my favourites. So what I've decided to cut this video into is real strong contenders and favourites of the year that weren't 5 stars, and then favourites of the year that were 5 stars, so you can get an idea that I can have a favourite that wasn't a 5-star, and it's looking back completely with hindsight instead of the reviews that I put on Goodreads, which were kind of seconds after finishing the book. So I've got my coffee. I've been a little under the weather recently, so that's why I look a little bit rough, but I thought I would just do it now while it's all nice and exciting. So I'm just going to have a slurp of this coffee and then we're going to get going. So the very first list I want to do is contenders, which were ones that I really enjoyed looking back and which were really diverse and different. Now this year was really interesting for me because I started to get an idea of really what kind of books I like and more about my taste than I ever have done. Because when I started rating books I realised that some kind of thriller, some dark psychological books are ones that I liked, and that was kind of leading on from 2017 when I read certain books like Rebecca and the Virgin Suicides, which I mention ridiculously on my channel, but they started to kind of get me on a pattern of exploring those kind of books. So one book that I really want to mention is Heaven's Gate by Benjamin Zeller. Now, I read that very much at the very beginning of 2018, and I didn't even realise it was a book that I'd read last year. I read it on Audible, but what I found so fascinating about that book is about the cult Heaven's Gate, which previously I knew nothing about. It was very informative about it, really went into the kind of psyche of why people joined, because Heaven's Gate was very infamous for its end when they all kind of, this remote location, they all cover themselves with sheets and one by one, or like group by group maybe, they killed themselves, and then the remaining people would shroud them with kind of a white cover over themselves. They believed in this kind of belief that they were all going to heaven, and it was kind of mixed with Scientology kind of concepts and science fiction kind of concepts as well. But actually learning why people joined and why the cult leaders created it and all these different circumstances that led to it kind of demystified some of the the crazy assumptions with the cult and kind of gave it a lot more validity than I think it's previously had. So I found that really interesting, and if you're really interested in cults and realistic cults and the whole sphere of cults, for example, I'm not a massive science fiction lover. Sounds kind of bizarre to me, but this cult is fascinating, and it goes into the detail of why they chose to die as they did, what happened to the cult leaders along the way, and it actually has real people who previously belonged to the cult but who didn't die with the cult who kind of talk about their journey through it. It was fascinating, and it's a non-fiction, probably the best non-fiction I read last year. I really got into that. And then another big contender was Lolita. Now I'm really surprised looking back. Sorry about my horrible voice, it's just my cough. I'm really surprised that I didn't put Lolita as 5 stars, because it is a book that has kind of haunted me ever since I finished reading it. Now it's about a man, and it's from his perspective of his kind of very lusty, voyeuristic desire for his wife, kind of girlfriend. He ends up in circumstances kind of gaining a relationship with this woman, and it's her daughter, her teenage daughter, that he becomes infatuated with, and it's very uncomfortable reading at points because it is very to the point and quite vulgar about his kind of lust for this girl, but it has such interesting layers of his self-justification of why he feels that way, and then their kind of mixed up relationship. It's a book that if you're a fan of kind of plot and drive, it wouldn't be for you. It's very much a character study of the individual, and at times kind of looking through his lens and you're not comfortable with that. But I had this kind of morbid fascination all the way through, which is the best way I can describe it, of being fascinated with why he felt that way, and looking at it more from a mental health point of view and a mental illness point of view of why he thought this was normal, and how it kind of downplayed really the sick element of it. It kind of fascinated you as to why he felt this way, really. It's very hard to explain, but if you've read it you'd understand. But I actually loved it, which a lot of people detest it and find it really difficult reading, but I was really fascinated by it. And then another quick one I want to mention, but I don't want to dwell on it too much because it's on everybody's favourites list, and that is Normal People by Sally Rooney. At the time, I gave quite a scathing review of it. I think I gave it 3 stars and said it was very problematic, and I think the relationship between the 2 main characters was problematic and still is problematic. However, the female protagonist in the book kind of stuck with me quite a lot. Kind of, after reading it, dwelt on her a lot and wondered how she's kind of coping. I feel like the environment that was created for her and that her partner, her kind of love interest, depicted, and the kind of lack of self-belief she had about herself. She's a character that you definitely worry about after you finish reading her. It's hard to explain, and I can't really remember their names because it's been so long now. But she's definitely stayed with me, so I think I think I should change the review to 4-star because the character was written so well. She is a little bit messed up, she doesn't know her own identity, and he doesn't necessarily help that, which I found quite an interesting dynamic as well. A lot of the time you want to kind of write romantic plot lines with the idea that the other half is going to save you, and that didn't necessarily happen, which I liked. And then the next one I want to dwell on is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Now, I gave this one 4 stars, and that's only because reading it is a little bit lengthy and drawn out to get to the bits that you want, the kind of gory good bits. It's not what I expected at all, and I was pleasantly surprised by that, because it isn't a horror, a pulp fiction kind of book at all. It's very much a kind of character study of Frankenstein, and then he kind of creates something out of his power, and it's really, really interesting because it's got themes really of kind of motherhood, I think, underneath it all, and how Mary Shelley's kind of commenting on this idea of you creating something completely out of your control, when you have children or when you bring something into the world, and how he has this sense of lack of control all the time. And it's so interesting because the monster has always been depicted as such an evil and loathsome, the epitome of evil, but he's just striving for an acceptance, and because he's a horrific monster and nobody really befriends him, he ends up reverting to what society says he will be. And it's a really interesting concept about thing that's relatable even in modern society. Do we create the monsters of society? Do we, by the fact that we shame them away and we tell them they'll never be worth anything, are we therefore creating these monsters? So there's so many really deep and interesting and philosophical and kind of social elements to this book that I absolutely loved. But it is not a fast-paced horror kind of story. It's a lot more about the characters, which I did love. Then I just want to quickly mention I read Our Doris. 2 books are Doris and Indisputably Doris by Charles Heathcote, one of my favourite booktubers, this year, and I really wanted to just rave about that. I know a lot of other booktubers this year had started reading it. Just absolutely fantastic. It's so quintessentially sarcastic and on the mark, and I got a lot out of it. I thought Doris is a hilarious character. It's about Doris and her husband Harold, and how all the little adventures she gets up to, and how she's desperate for kind of acceptance within the community, and she does some ridiculous things to try and gain that acceptance. And for me, they're just so witty, so fun, and I've heard on the grapevine the 3rd one's coming out, and I cannot wait. So I just wanted to do a little bit of a shout out on this video. And then I'm quickly moving on because I've realised my list is ridiculous. So the next one I want to mention just briefly is Hamlet by William Shakespeare, the only play I'm going to mention, unfortunately. And that was a real highlight this year. I went to go and watch it at the Globe with my mum. One of the only Shakespeare plays I've read kind of on my own. I've read The Tempest with university, and I read Romeo and Juliet, but it's the kind of first time I've tried to read something on my own of Shakespeare's. I really, really enjoy it. It's very messed up. There's a lot of revenge and death, but that is kind of where you can see a lot of modern film and cinema and novels come from, this concept of physical haunting and the revenge. And he's just so good at what he does, Shakespeare. Things like Macbeth and Hamlet are one of my favourites, because I love the concept of haunting somebody once they're gone, and this infatuation with power, and how it really doesn't get you anywhere, and it's still very human desires modern day people can still really relate to, and he always weaves a great story with lots of twists and turns, so I did really very much enjoy that. And then quickly moving on, I want to quickly mention The Immortalist as well by Chloe Benjamin. Now, I also read that on Audible, and I also didn't think I gave that the credit it deserved. I think I ended up giving it 4 stars. At the time, because it is such a long audiobook, I was wondering kind of where I was laying with it, and basically the first 2 siblings I really enjoyed their stories, and the last 2 siblings not so much. So the first one was Simon, the youngest, and is it Clara? I can't remember the second one, and I definitely can't remember the other 2 siblings, which is bad. It was kind of going around this concept of when they're very young, go to see a kind of fortune teller in New York down one of these kind of flats, and she predicts the day you're going to die, and then it kind of goes through each of the siblings up to the day they're going to die, and it intermingles with their relationships with each other and their parents. Simon was the most fascinating story because it kind of went through his sexuality and how he had to escape the confines of his Jewish family to kind of figure out what he wanted, and he died, spoilers, he died a lot younger than the others, and always knowing that he was going to die and how that affected his choices. I could have literally read an entire book on him. His youngest sister, because it kind of went through how she wanted to connect with her grandmother. Grandmother was kind of circus, acrobatics, kind of that world, and how she ends up going to Las Vegas and performing, but then there was lots of other deeper issues like mental health issues. One of the sisters has got kind of OCD and anxiety, and then the next generation comes along as well, so it was very, very interesting, and I would recommend it to anybody who sounds interested by it. I was interested by the premise, and a lot of people sold me on this idea of what happens and how your life is determined by knowing the day you're going to die. It was fun and interesting reading, but you know, I wouldn't ever really want to know the day I was going to die. I think that would be just too terrifying for me, so in a fictional world it's fine, but I enjoyed that. And another one I enjoyed was A Spool of Blue Thread by Anne Tyler. Now that kind of goes through an American family in the 50s or 60s, I want to say. And they're quite a big family, and it's similar to The Immortalist in the sense that it goes through the family lines, how they're all connected. A very matriarchal mother in the family who's very overbearing. And then she kind of ages and Red, her husband, ages, and then it's how the kids deal with that. And it's kind of all growing up, and again, as you can see, there's a theme. These aren't books that have a rapid plot that you get to something interesting. It is a little bit more exploration of characters, which I'm fascinated by. I am more character driven 100% than plot driven, and I need to be invested in the characters, and these books kind of take that breather to allow you to really connect with the characters, which is something that I have learnt over the last year or so, and that I thoroughly enjoy, and I will take the time to read. So there's that one, and then one last one in my kind of mentioned high ratings but not 5 stars is The Haunting of Hill House. Now I still haven't watched the series because I'm terrified, and I obviously have a lot of scaredy cat friends because nobody actually wants to watch it with me. And also I need to sort out my whole Netflix. There's a big situation there at the moment and I don't have it. But I absolutely loved The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. Again, similar to Frankenstein, if you're going into it, if you've seen the series and you're like, yeah, it's going to be like Bump in the Night, it's going to be crazy, it really, really isn't. It's very slow paced. It's quite an old book. It has atmosphere, like I would say Du Maurier, but not the same. It's a lot more slow paced. You can read it and it's mainly situated around certain characters, and the main protagonist, I've forgotten her name. I will insert kind of like, or down here, the names of the characters when I upload this, because I've literally just decided to add Sunday morning, so I did read these books and I do know who they are. Just not now, so I'll just insert that there. The main protagonist anyway, she is very self-involved, and I think a lot of people who don't like this book don't like it for those reasons. The fact that there's a lot of monologues in this about how she feels and how she wants to be accepted by the rest of the people in this house. So basically there is a scientist doctor, and he invites people to this house that's believed to be haunted, and he invites characters who he believes has previously had dealings with the other world. So she gets invited along. She has lost her mother recently. She was kind of a carer for her mother, and her sister thinks she's a nitwit, and she just goes for a little bit of escapism. And then obviously the house kind of takes on a personality of its own, and there are a few bump in the night kind of things, more slow pace and building of atmosphere and kind of mass description of the house as an entity, as aside to all the kind of fancy horror devices that modern day readers and watchers are used to. Really did enjoy that. I finished my coffee and now I'm going to try and speed it up, and we're going to go on to the absolute favourites of this year. So super sorry, I'll go really fast. So one of them is No Surprise to Anyone. That's Days Without End by Sebastian Barry. I think it is an absolutely beautiful story. It's about two men in the background of kind of the American Civil War, and it's an LGBT book, but it's not in your face. It's so subtle, and people are weaved together so intricately, and it's kind of their desire to be together and the confines of how they shouldn't be. But it's just so beautiful. It really is stunning. I really want to read more of Sebastian Barry's works, but I'm a little bit worried that it's just not going to be the same as this book, because I know he writes a lot. He's Irish and he writes about Catholicism, so I am not sure, but it's beautiful. And I'll link all these books down below, by the way. And then a second one is Perfume by Patrick Suskind. This book is kind of not everybody's cup of tea. It's about a killer who he's obsessed with smells, and he kind of kills people in this bid to capture the perfect smell. He goes on all these adventures. He kind of works with people who create perfumes because he's besotted and obsessed with smell, and it kind of leads to some dark consequences. It's quite slow as well. When I was sold this book, a lot of people were like, oh yeah, it's all about he's a killer. And I think when we read books like that, we expect it to be full to the brim of kind of tension and violence, and it's very slow paced. It does not give you that instant satisfaction that you want, so that's just a warning going in. But I really did enjoy that, and these are all 5 stars, by the way. And then a next book that I loved was Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day by Winifred Watson. Now this is the only Persephone book that I read this year. I have a stack of them because a few years back I treated myself to like the beginner's collection, and I haven't got through them. I'm a bad person, but there's just too many books on my shelves. But this is such a romp and such a laugh. I read it within a day when I was in Cornwall. It's just good-natured fun. It was a really great introduction to Persephone, but I just loved it and devoured it so much that I thought, yes, it's just an easy read. It's kind of the first ever chick lit, if you will, which I'm not a massive fan usually of, but I thought, no, I really enjoyed it. I'll give it 5 stars. So I'll link these all down below so you can go and check them out, because I just don't want this video to be too long. Next one will be No Surprise to Anyone either. That's The Vegetarian by Han Kang. Mentioned these books kind of previously, so I don't want to dwell too much on them. And obviously you can go check them out down below. But The Vegetarian's so interesting. It's kind of 3 little stories in one that's again centred around the family, but mainly this one character who makes the decision to become vegetarian, which in her family in Korea does not go down very well, and it has really interesting themes of the projection of sexuality on people, of the beliefs of people, of family dynamics in Korea. I found this fascinating, and it's really tempted me and interested me into more Korean and Japanese and Chinese kind of literature, because this side of the world is really interesting to me because the cultural beliefs are so very different to ours. I have Convenience Store Woman that I got at Christmas, hoping that I can go have a read of, because a lot of people said it's kind of similar cultural reading and very interesting. But The Vegetarian's very short, it's very interesting, and I'm hoping to get to her other books very soon. And then the next one, again, no surprise, everyone's raved about it. It's Lullaby by Leila Slimani. This is a why done it, not who done it. It's centred around the babysitter, the au pair, however you want to say. It's based in France, and We know at the beginning of the book that she's killed the kids, but we don't know why, and it kind of backtracks from that. Not a spoiler because it's literally in the first page. But absolutely hooked on this. This kind of satisfies that part of me that really wants to get into a psyche of a character. Absolutely loved it. Yeah. And then just 2 more and a slight mention. So the next one, The Silent Companions by Laura Purcell. This was fantastic. It has so many different books around it. It has influences of Shirley Jackson, The Woman in Black. It has kind of the, what is it called? The Miniaturist. Loads of other books you can really see through this, but it was so original. The Silent Companions are kind of these stock still pictures, images of paintings, but the book kind of plays around with they're moving, and are they entities, and is this connected with other things, and there's kind of diaries in the house. And if you like those kind of Victorian Gothic style, a real thriller that you can work your way through, this is perfect for you. I really want to get to The Corset, which you released this year, quite recently. It's in the bookshops now, I'm pretty sure. I absolutely loved it. I know that a lot of other booktubers read it this year and really enjoyed it. It was a great thing to read in kind of the wintry months. I don't believe I read it in the wintry months. I believe I read it more like springtime and still really enjoyed it. Fantastic. And then quickly, The Muse by Jessie Burton. It spans 2 different time periods. The 30s, I believe, and the 60s or 70s. And it's all kind of centred around this painting. And we want to figure out who this is. And then there's characters that jump across from the 60s who kind of want to find out if they're connected to the 30s. It's very complex to explain, but it's weaved so intricately and amazing. A lot of books that kind of dot through different time periods sometimes fall a bit flat for me because I get invested in one time period more than the other, and then I kind of struggle to keep jumping back. But this one is not one of those books. Both of them had kind of passionate plot lines that you wanted to understand, and then they weave intricately really well together. It's just an absolute talent. Considering I wasn't over the moon in previous years reading The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton, this has definitely changed my opinion, and I think she's fantastic. And this book was really good. I mean, The Miniaturist was very talented. There was just something I didn't fully connect with that one. I know she's got a kind of children's book out at the moment, so she's around. She's great. This is a great book, so it would encourage me to read more of whatever she produces. And then quick slight mention, I just wanted to say that I made an effort this year to read more poetry, not as much as I would have liked, but I'm definitely going to go into 2019 reading more. I read Minotaurist, was one of my favourite collections this year. I read In Her Shambles, read Dirty Laundry, and a few others, which I'll link down below. They were fantastic, and I was so happy that the publishers themselves sent those books to me. It was really heartfelt and lovely, and I'm hoping that I'm going to make a lot more effort to read some more poetry this year. And obviously, like you've just seen, there's not been many plays either, or different kinds of literature. Hopefully I can change that. So thank you guys so much if you are still here at the end of this video and have actually watched all of this. This isn't my definitive list of all my 5 stars, for example, and not all of these were the absolute cream of the crop, but this is my first proper kind of review video of a full year. And I know it's a bit lengthy, but I just wanted to give you a taste of all the different things that I did really enjoy, and I'll be better at it next time. It definitely won't be as lengthy as this, but thank you guys so much for watching. Please hit the subscribe button if you want to be alerted for when any of my future videos come out, and I'll be back with a video very soon. Bye now.